Hello everybody and welcome to another list video here at Playing Board Games, and today I am joined by Beard. How's it going, Beard?
Oh, it's going pretty well. How about you?
It's going great. It's going great because I'm very excited because we just get to talk about cards that we're designing. For people who might not know, we have been designing 5 investigators on the channel for the last few months. Actually, also in real life for the last few months. And we have recently started to work on the player card expansion to go with those investigators, and we've been making great strides at getting that done. On the channel, these design videos are going to be starting right away, but what I wanted to do for people who might not watch those design videos, because it is very long and very analytical with bouts of silence and just like thinking, I wanted to have 5 cards from each of us to kind of like hype up the set, and we could talk about the design for them and kind of where they are. So that should be pretty fun. Beard, we just got to talk about things we've already talked about before, but with a little bit of retrospect on it. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a little cleaner.
Yeah, it's a little more digestible too for people who might want to see what we're cooking up here. So consider this kind of the first spoiler, but not really, for our set. I think we'll just dive in. I'll read the card and then we'll start talking about it. So, and we'll each like lead our own conversation for it. So we'll start with my Guardian card here, which is Traditional Remedy. This is a 2-cost event. It's a science and a spirit. So Kate Winthrop and Calvin Wright, eat your hearts out, and Hank, I suppose. Attached to an investigator at your location, heal 1 damage from that investigator, and then forced, at the start of the investigation phase, heal 1 damage from attached investigator and discard Traditional Remedy. Our Guardian for our set is a character named Yvette Perau. She is a healing support build, where she has an ability that whenever she heals an investigator, that investigator gets +1 to all skills for each point healed until the end of the Mythos phase. While we were playtesting her, we kind of realized that this was a fun ability to build around and it was really fun to pump it up. So we thought, hey, what if we had more ways to heal? So that's kind of become a focus on the Guardian side of things. Beyond that as well, we designed a card that kind of had damage dipped out over 2 phases. And then when we were designing cards, we were like, hey, but what if we did that for healing? Because 1, it works very well with Yvette's ability. It gives an investigator +1 to all skills for 2 turns, which is really nice and really fits that fantasy. But in addition, this also has some cool synergy with any other sort of healing synergy effects, which we've actually also continued to design in the set. And then also, it's fun to support past investigators just by happenstance. And like both Carolyn Fern, well, not Carolyn Fern, sorry, but Vincent Lee would love this card because this one's only the damage. There's no horror on this one.
Yeah, it's good for anything that triggers once per round because of the delay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also good for future planning, like you're setting up healing so you don't have to be at the same location next round.
Mm-hmm. You can kind of just like go off and do your own thing, but I'm still gonna kind of be with you. Yeah.
It's it opens up a lot of strategy, and I always like that in cards.
Yeah, and then it's also been very fun to, like what you said, this is probably the only card that we can put science and spirit on the same card, which is cool. Because, like, while I don't expect Kate Winthrop to come running out of the woodwork to be like, oh my god, I can't wait to play Traditional Remedy, what's really nice is that there's now the option for more science cards that are outside of the Secret class, which is something that we've kind of been aware of as we've been working towards this.
Yeah, we've been spreading out the traits a little bit for this set, just to try and add some to the trait-based investigators.
Yes, yeah, and Calvin Wright actually has been eating pretty this set, and we're going to see some more stuff that he's going to like as well.
Oh, yeah.
All right, why don't we go to yours, because yours is actually pretty similar. This is Grace Under Fire, a 1-cost asset. It's a spirit. Your first action each turn that heals or activates an ability printed on a weakness does not provoke attacks of opportunity. As a lightning bolt, you can discard Grace Under Fire to heal 1 damage or 1 horror. Beard, I'll throw this to you.
So this is a great tech card, I think, because if you get a lot of double action discard weaknesses in your deck, or if you just have something that you need to take care of, but you're the fighter, this is a good tool for you to have out just so you're not soaking attacks of opportunity or having to try and find an awkward window working around a couple players' turns to try and get rid of a weakness. With this, you can both heal, which often does provokes attack of opportunity, or get rid of a weakness just to keep you going at your own pace.
Mhm.
And the discard is an extra heal in a pinch just in case you need it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so the discard thing, we when we were designing cards at the start of this, and I think it kind of just happened more naturally as we started to make cards more together. There was times when we were like, we want a bumper on this card. That's something that I was saying. I want like that extra thing that makes you go, ooh, I kind of want to play this. And we started with Grace Under Fire as a card for Yvette, because in playtesting we were like, it's a little bit awkward if you have an enemy and you want to bump up your stats when you're dealing with that enemy, but you want to like heal, or you had like a weakness that was like, I was just like kept falling into the place where like it's a little bit awkward trying to heal. So we had that first design on the top of it. But then that little bumper on the bottom was that little bit of the ooh, which kind of gave this card like, oh, so when you're done with the tech card, you're basically just also paying 1 to just get a little like slight amount of healing, which I think works really nice.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's been fun as well is, as you can see, we have like a wartime theme. Yvette is a combat medic, so that's kind of been dictating the designs on a lot of our cards. And as we actually see that each class kind of has a thing that's theirs, like a theme. The Seeker one took us a bit to get there, but we got there in the last session, so that was nice.
Oh yeah, it's good to finally have that locked in so you can design a whole batch of cards at once.
Yeah. Should we move on to Seeker?
Yes, and in fact, I think yours may have something to do with that archetype.
I do. Mine is Perfectionist. So, 3 cost asset, it's a talent. You reduce your maximum hand size by 2, and as a reaction, after drawing during the upkeep phase, if you have fewer cards in hand than your maximum hand size, exhaust Perfectionist and draw 1 card. I will also say before we get into this, these cards are all subject to change. We haven't done major testing or any testing on many of these cards. So like these are all just kind of like in the state that they currently are in our design file. There's nothing set in stone yet. For someone who might say, oh my god, you're drawing 1 card a turn? That's crazy. When we were designing these cards here, we got to Seeker and we realized we had a theme because our investigator is a playwright. So we had like a theater theme for this. But he also had like allies as his thing. But allies wasn't really something we could build an entire set around. So we were kind of missing what we were going to be doing for Seeker's theme. And then you suggested a card where you discarded your entire hand. And then we were both like, that's really cool. How can we make that worth it? And through the process of putting all the strings together on our corkboard, we realized, hey, what if this Seeker's thing was that no hand size Seeker or like low hand size Seeker? So from that, we kind of were just building from that, where it's like, okay, this card gives you some good card draw, but it reduces your hand size by 2. So if you have one of them, your new maximum hand size is 6, which means that, yeah, you're still getting a card out of this, but you're going to have less cards you can hold overall. And if you want to have 2 Perfectionists in play, which you can, your hand size is now 4, which is very small, but in theory, you can use your resources and like get advantage from that and then fill it back up with Perfectionists. And it's been a very fun thing to explore. And then I also really enjoy the theme associated with it, which is that artists are all going a little bit crazy because of all the work they have to do and try to be creative.
Yeah, it's another thing where the theme kind of syncs up, because in a lot of Arkham stuff, your hand size and your hand in general seems to represent mental capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a perfectionist, you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
And that's reducing your max hand size right there. It's exactly the theme that fits the mechanic.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where what I really like about Perfectionist is that if you just want to play this card, the top line is a downside. But if you want to play this archetype that we're exploring in this set, it's actually like a very important piece to making sure that this archetype is functional, which I think is really nice because a card every turn for just like one asset, as we know, is good in this game. And I think that it being something that you have a downside if you're not playing the archetype, I think is going to lead to good balance in the long term.
Exactly.
All right, well, speaking of this archetype, Beard, yours extends on this, so why don't we dive right into that one, which is Jester Skull. This is a 3-cost unique asset. Takes up a hand slot, item, and a charm. While you have 4 or fewer cards in your hand, you get +1 foot. While you have 2 or fewer cards in your hand, you get +1 brain. And while you have 0 cards in your hand, you get +1 book.
So I think this was literally made by saying, what if we made Soleno fragments but backwards?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's rewarding that low hand size, but it's something that can be attainable without the archetype as well, because a lot of the times that I'm playing, I often have like 2 or 3 cards in hand because of how much I'm playing or committing.
Yep. Yep.
So this is something to sort of encourage using the cards in your hands rather than holding on to them for like the big hand archetype.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying for that last one where we have the card, the Perfectionist, where 2 of these in play help feed the archetype, because now if your maximum hand size is 4, your Jester Skull is pretty much always online, but then you also have to make the decision, am I going to draw these extra cards to power down my Jester Skull, or am I going to like get these cards and use them for their resources, but like not take the skill boost that comes with it?
It is also fun for if you're in the middle of a skill test, you can boost up by just committing a whole lot.
Which is really cool. That's really cool. Like, I think that we were talking that when we were designing these cards and trying to figure out the Seeker archetype, we were like, well, Seekers do 3 things. They draw cards, get clues, and move. And that's why Seekers are usually the least exciting to design for. But I think we found something really cool with this, which led to a lot of fun stuff.
Of course, and the theme is continuing on the theater line of things.
Yep.
With the sort of Alas Poor Yorick's skull.
Yeah. And also, again, you can see with the charm here, this was Astute Dunsparce's suggestion to have it so that Amina could play this. So, you know, more power to Amina. And that's also been like why the card costs 3 was a part of it, that it works for Amina, but also because 3 is pretty good. This is very easy to get a static boost with this card. A lot easier than Soleno fragments, for example.
I think Amina is also one of the people that's making out well in this set.
Yes, yep, I definitely think so, which we actually will be talking about when we get to the rogue cards here. So, let's go to my rogue card, which is Understudy. This is a null cost asset, so you can't play it. It's an ally that takes up so the ally slot. It's also Performer, soaks for 1 and 1. And as a reaction after an ally asset you control leaves play, put Understudy into play from your hand. As a reaction after Understudy enters play, take an immediate action as if it were your turn. So going back to Seneca, our investigators are kind of neat. So Seneca is our Seeker investigator. I should say that. We know what that is, but you might not if you're watching this. And he has ally synergy, and his deck building is Seeker 05, Mystic, or Rogue level 0. So you can choose one of the classes to be your off class, and you get level 0. So one thing that we've been trying to do with our level 0 cards is have them fit in a variety of our investigators. So like every level 0 card you kind of want to play in at least like 2 of the 3 investigators that can run it. And this was the inspiration that you had for Understudy, Beard, when you designed this card. And I think this is a really nice thing and a very nice merge between Maxwell Pike, our rogue, who is an all-3 rogue investigator that cares about assets leaving play and the icons on those assets. So that's why this guy has an effect when an asset leaves play, and then also like he can control when this thing comes in, and also why he has a wild icon. But what I think beyond that is really cool about this card is it expands an archetype in the rogue class that we haven't really had any expansion on, which is in the form of those meat grinder allies, so like Treasure Hunter, Hired Muscle, Priest of Two Faiths, that, for example, like Leo Anderson plays, but also Dexter Drake plays, and I could see Understudy living especially in Dexter Drake, or any investigator that like has ally assets leave play constantly, because he's basically just, you're drawing a card and then eventually you're going to get a free action and some soak, which is really cool.
Absolutely. The theme again is the actor who's just waiting for his moment to show up on stage, but will not show up before then. So
yeah,
it's,
it's a very funny. It's like, oh no, I lost Leo DeLuca, but luckily this guy's here. And then it's like, wait a minute, this guy, I mean, he's good, but he's not Leo DeLuca, but he's acting his heart out trying to be.
and yeah, the meat grinder deck is just all about the cheap, quick ally assets for one-time effects and soak. So I designed this just to sort of fit that and also not cost you a whole ton, because usually ally decks, even the cheap ones, tend to run up the cost quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just adding the stipulation on that you can't play him until someone else dies or leaves play.
Yeah.
It kind of helped balance it and keep it at a level 0 card.
Yeah, definitely. The thing too about Seneca, he has a reaction whenever his ability is a forced ability, which has made design very interesting, where after you trigger reaction abilities or action abilities or lightning bolt abilities on an ally, you have to you trigger it again and then you discard it, which has led also to this kind of design as we're like making these discoveries about how do we make that work, and I think Understudy is a very nice marriage of that as well.
Yep, and to clarify for the audience, we changed it to be an ability in play, so he's not gonna trigger like double trigger putting himself into play and then leaving immediately.
Yeah, it'll be only the bottom one. Yeah. All right, Beard. Let's talk about your rogue, which is Jeweler's Loop. This is a 3-cost asset, takes up a hand slot. Item tool Charm. This is Amina, as we mentioned. As an action, investigate Jeweler's Loop. Investigate. This investigation uses your lowest skill and your location gets -2 shroud value. If you succeed and your modified skill value is not 0, discover an additional clue.
So the whole design behind this was, how do we reward the all 3 stat lines, or even like the 2, 3, 3, 4 Skids stat line, because it's still decent with him. And the idea was it's sort of like a flashlight that's repeatable, and you can use it like a flashlight and just investigate at 0 even with your worst stat and get something out of it. But if you're using a 3 or a 2 and you commit a little, then there's the extra payoff there, the additional clue, or on some of the other ones we made in this set, a lot of extra damage or an additional effect. So it can fit into the tested 0 archetype, but it's better if you have a well-rounded stat line. So this is good for Jenny, this is good for Amina, this is good for, let's see, it's a tool, so it's for Wilson.
Yep.
And of course our new rogue investigator, who is now all 3s, Maxwell.
Yep. Yeah. These ones are still, they're very intriguing to me. Wrapping my head around them, I'm still like, what the heck am I doing here? Which is very exciting, because I'm excited to see these things in action, because I think they're going to be very fun to build around. Because there's like different ways you can go, where it's like exactly as you're saying with Jenny, this allows you to like play this card, and then you can just actually stay at all 3s as opposed to like trying to make your stats better. It really does feel like, hey, how can I get value out of my stat line? And this card says, hi, I'm here. You can get value through me, which I think is really cool. Or you can do like a Dark Horse style pumping where you get all 4s and then this card becomes even better, but you're still building around Jeweler's Loop, or the other 2, the Ball Peen Hammer or the Snuff Box. Which I think is really cool. It's an interesting kind of exploration of the idea of how do we make all 3s better without just going into traditional stat ball, but also just without giving those with higher stats cards that are just better for them, right?
Yeah, the Tony Morgan problem.
Yeah, exactly, right? This card's nice for Skids. It allows them to fight really well, but Tony Morgan is like, watch what I can do. Well, Tony Morgan looking at this is like, oh no, it's not as good.
Yeah, it's definitely a puzzle because in most games, not just Arkham, higher stats for the thing you want to do things just makes you better.
Yep.
So without rewriting the rules, this was my best shot at I think at kind of helping out the people with more well-rounded stat lines.
Yeah. It makes me want to play Jenny, so that we know that's a win, because I don't like playing Jenny.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. All right, let's go to our mystics. And I have Surging Power. This is a 3-cost, 2 experience spell asset that takes up an arcane slot. It doesn't have icons, but it should have icons. That's okay. That's what this is all about. As I said, these are works in progress. It uses 4 charges. As an action, spend 1 charge, fight. Add your fist to your brain for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. If you do not succeed by at least 2, take 1 damage. And forced, if 1 or more charges are added, placed, or replenished on Surging Power, place 1 doom on it. Our investigator, Delphine, our mystic investigator for this cycle, is a doom-focused investigator. She has an ability where if she deals damage, well, actually, if an investigator at her location deals damage with an asset with doom on it, it gets +1 damage once per round. So she essentially can turn this into a spectral razor. But when I was putting stuff together for this card, I was thinking, how can we make doom on spell assets have like a little bit more of a hoop to jump through that for other investigators is a downside, but for Delphine is an upside, or like for example for Marie is an upside, where like this extra doom that you get on it is actually a nice thing, right? And then that's where Surging Power came in, where I was like, I can make like a really strong spell effect, right? Because this is essentially a baby spectral razor or a spectral razor for Delphine. But if you wanted to put charges on it, that's where the big downside of this card comes in, where if you are just like bringing in, let's just say like Agnes Baker, and you're doing this, you're like, well, if I want to use this over and over again, I'm putting doom down. But someone like Marie and Delphine go, oh boy, I get to pump this up and then use this doom to my advantage. And that's where Surging Power came in. I think this is actually probably my favorite design I've thrown into the expansion so far. I think it's just like I think it was a big, very mission success for that sort of thing.
I agree. Something that you're very good at, I think, is putting on abilities like the Doom thing, where the pieces to make it work aren't all on one card.
Mm-hmm.
You need a lot more interplay between cards, and a lot of custom designs suffer by trying to make each card its own engine and payoff at the same time. Whereas this is a piece that you can play with and try and workshop in Theorycraft to make something really neat. And I think a lot of why people love Arkham is those moments where they get to feel brilliant for coming up with stuff like that.
Yep. It's more fun to like combine 3 cards into a cool thing than just have like your 1 card do it all. It's just more, it's like what makes the card games fun, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go to your Mystic here, which is, I think, also really cool. We have Channeled Hatred. This is a 0-cost event. It's a pact and a spell. Fast, play only during your turn. Choose an asset you control with a fight action on it. Place 1 doom on that asset and take a fight action on that asset, ignoring all costs. Add your fist value to your skill value for this attack.
So this is part of a trio, as you might imagine, with fight, investigate, and evade. But it was, I think the main design decision behind this was, how do we get doom on assets that don't usually get doom on them?
Mm-hmm.
And this was a way to both do that for the doom interactions, but also just as a basic value thing, where you could just get a quick extra fight or evade or investigate out of one of your spells, even if they're out of charges, at the cost of a little doom.
Yes. Yeah, and that was a big thing we were talking about, was we wanted to make sure that Doom was worth it in this cycle, because we have a little bit of a benefit where we're custom content creators, so we can do what we want, right? We can also change things if it's too bad, where the official content can't. But we took it all, like, looked at all the Doom cards they've done and be like, how can we make this so the Doom feels worth it for this card? Like, the cost of this card is actually just the Doom. Otherwise, it's free. It's like literally free.
Mm-hmm. And there's other official cards that have come along that are also literally free, so we don't feel too bad on that front.
Yeah. And I also didn't have the evade one here, but I think the evade one is the strongest of the cycle, so I think that's also exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But also, yeah, like, really good with Delphine, like you said. Like, now we can get, like, Doom on a Brand of Cthugha or something like that, which is really nice for her.
For sure. It's good interplay.
All right. Let's go to our last two cards here with Survivor. Mine is Tough as Nails. This is a 0-cost spirit event. Gain 1 resource for each damage or horror on your investigator card to a maximum of 5 resources. This one came to me, this one's actually relatively new to this, but I really like it as a Survivor economy card. I think the Survivor one, like, as I'm finding now, just kind of makes sense. We're still, like, kind of, like, not really honed in on what the Survivor thing is. Like, we have the theme for it, right? But our investigator Moose is a little bit interesting, where he's like movement based. He's a movement based fighter, and he's very fun to play. I'm actually bringing him through a campaign right now, and he's incredibly fun to play. And he has great theming for his football stuff. We can do a lot of things with that. But there's not really, like, a archetype that we have yet for Survivor, which I guess makes sense when you look about it for in the official stuff too. Survivor is just kind of there sometimes. But it's continuing this trend of looking at our level 0 cards and asking how can everybody take advantage of this, going to that 2 out of 3. So Yvette, our guardian, starts with 2 trauma on each of her stats. So she has 8/8, but she starts as a 6/6 at the start of the game with 2 damage and 2 horror. This is to enable her ability to heal, but also because it's a downside for her character card that then, like, you know, you have that kind of stuff associated with it. So I use that as, like, the starting off point, because Moose wants to take damage when he's moving sometimes, and you can use this as, like, not early game economy for him, but, like, late game. Or if you accrue trauma or have trauma, like, for example, Yvette or, you know, Calvin Wright, you can use this as just a generic resource card. And it does seem to be maximum 5 for level 0. Like we see with Faustian, Grift goes a little bit higher, but, like, this is kind of a pretty good rate for this. And I think that this is an exciting economy card for the Survivor class that feels very Survivor.
Yeah, and it rewards you for kind of playing more risky.
Yep.
Because if you know you're going to get some benefit from taking a few hits, then you're less afraid to take the hits.
Yes, yep. Yeah, like, yeah. I would play the hell out of this card in, like, Daniela too, right? That's just some, like, insane resource drop. But the interesting thing is it's not first turn resource drop. It's, like, later in the scenario. So it really, like, kind of shifts what economy is, which I think is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, and let's go to yours, Beard, which is Football Helmet. This is a 2-cost Survivor asset. It's an item in an armor, so you can sew a hidden pocket into it. Takes up the accessory slot. It soaks for 1 damage. And then as a reaction, after a non-elite enemy makes an attack of opportunity against you, exhaust Football Helmet. That enemy gets -1 damage and -1 horror until the end of the round to a minimum of 0.
Real quick before I talk about the card, you saying hidden pocket with this helmet just made me think of the football beer helmets.
Oh yeah, let's go. I mean, if you put liquid courages in there, it's perfect. Yeah.
All right. With Moose for this set, the initial kind of projection with him was that there weren't a lot of effects in the game that moved him. Mm-hmm. And I found during our initial testings that you don't really need them. You can just prepare to take basic move actions and just build around that with either canceling attacks or having lots of soak. And Football Helmet was kind of in that line where after an enemy attacks you, for most enemies, they're not going to deal any damage to you for the rest of the round, basically. Including during the enemy phase, so you don't have to worry about ending your turn engaged with them. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's like getting the enemy attack up front so you can
Yes.
still do things with it. And I could also see this being of some use in like parley decks if you're not like high on evading but still want to parley with an enemy.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like as soon as there's like this solves like smaller enemies, but it doesn't stop like the bigger guys who attack for like 2 and 2 or 1 and 2. Like you'll still have to have some consideration with them. But for those small guys, Moose can just go head first into them with his football helmet and he's going to get out of it okay.
And the theme, of course, is perfectly on point. It's exactly what you'd expect from football gear and football. Well, not just football, but a lot of sports stuff. Just
Yeah.
the protection so you can go into action.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also looking at this card, the 1 health was one of those bumpers because this was one of the first cards we were talking about where it's like, I feel like this card should soak a little bit of damage just because like Leather Coat does. And I think overall it might be a bit like much, but it feels right, you know?
Yeah, and soak is interesting too because in certain circumstances it makes a card a little more delicate than it normally
Yep.
would.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of treacheries these days that are like 1 damage to everything that can soak before it goes on you, which I think is cool design.
It's a good design because it adds more puzzle pieces to work around.
Yep. Yep. Well, everybody, that is 10 cards from our custom expansion. I hope you enjoyed this and a little bit of insight into the design of those cards. Beard, I had a great time, and I hope you did too.
Oh, absolutely, I did.
Oh, hell yeah. So if you enjoyed this, let us know in the comments and keep your eyes open because we have a bunch of these videos from our design sessions coming your way. While we have been designing cards between those sessions, we always talk about the new cards when a new session starts, but you can see kind of the process that goes into a lot of these cards, as well as a bunch of stuff that goes way beyond this, because we have a lot of cool things coming out in this cycle for you guys to all check out whenever it does. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, a GG's.